You guys, welcome to season 4 of the Grappling Monthly Podcast. I am in 10th Planet, Las Vegas, joined by Coach Casey.
Coach
Casey, yeah. Man, I'm humbled. I just had a wonderful training session. We're going to get into it, get to know you a little bit. Yeah, absolute pleasure. So before we get into it, as usual, if you like the content that's coming out, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. If there's something we could be doing better, please leave a comment. It all helps, gain experience and continue to put some good jiu-jitsu content out there. So, yeah, absolutely. But without any further ado, let's get started.
Let's do it.
So, Coach Casey, thank you so much, first of all, for taking the time.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to be honest with you. I'll be right up front. I was a little intimidated because 10th Planet Las Vegas is doing big things on the scene, on the jiu-jitsu competitive scene. And, I love jiu-jitsu, but just a hobbyist type of thing. And so I wasn't 100% sure, of myself coming. And I'm so glad that I did come here because just, excellent vibe right from the moment that I walked in. Everybody's super friendly, good training, obviously, right? So thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm happy that you said that the first thing you noticed was good vibes. I mean, we do have a reputation because we train hard. And it's very important that we lead with culture first. And that was number one on my business model when we started initially in Orange County, was to build a great culture. And I think sometimes our athletic success kind of overshadows what our culture is all about here. Part of the reason we do so well is because I think you're going to perform better when you enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so we lead with community, family, culture, and then very closely behind that, it's hard work and getting after it. So I think we have a really unique blend of the two. And if you're pretty much just peering in, like you haven't been here before, and all you see is the content online, we are very aggressive competitors.
Yeah.
So you might think that that's our personalities inside of the gym, but it's totally not. It's just hard work.
Yeah, I can confirm. And it was very fun, very, very fun right from the jump. And immediately felt comfortable. So yeah.
Cool. That's great
awesome
to hear.
Yeah. So I wondered if I could get to know you a little bit on a personal level, your introduction to jiu-jitsu, how you got started, and how you came to move to Las Vegas.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can answer those questions.
Yeah.
So as a kid growing up in the 80s, I was fortunate enough that one of my neighbor's older brothers was wrestling in high school. And so I think that my introduction to wrestling was at 7. I started wrestling. Nothing too crazy. I didn't really have the kind of network or backing to actually take it out on the road. So it was all local stuff growing up. And then obviously being an 80s baby, or born in the 70s, but raised in the 80s, karate was a big thing.
Yeah, All Valley State Championships.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I grew up watching The Karate Kid, and
Nice.
I think I did strip mall karate for a really large portion of my childhood, as well as wrestling. And then in high school, never even made it. My freshman year, I ended up dropping out of high school. So I never even made it to wrestling season. So I never wrestled in high school. And then, did the whole family thing, tried to go back to college, got married, started having kids, and went through a pretty nasty divorce and was just feeling kind of lost. And then found jiu-jitsu and started training jiu-jitsu. And it was way more than a hobby for me. It was, I found that living in the working environment, in your mid-20s, corporate America and the world is not designed for outliers. I think corporate America, government agencies, military, schools, they don't know how to deal with the outliers, the top 10% and the bottom 10%. Nobody knows how to deal with them. And so I felt when I was in my 20s, like the whole world was forcing me into mediocrity, right? Where it was like, oh, just don't be too good because the manager above you will feel like you're attacking his position or you're coming after him. So they try to get rid of you. And if you're not good enough, they just fire you. And so you try to do the minimum amount of work required. And to me, that was like super toxic, right? And so I spent my whole life competing, and it was always like, be the best you can be. And athletically, I was never really gifted. I just know how to give a lot of effort. And so getting into like working for like a Fortune 500 company and getting into the work environment, the corporate environment, and then realizing like how stagnant and it was just nasty. I felt like everybody was just kind of operating like in the middle of their potential. And then I'll never forget the day I walked into jiu-jitsu, and it was like, oh shit, like everybody in here is trying to be amazing. And it was so refreshing to me. And I decided at that moment that I was going to give my life to it. And the pursuit of perfection is not only something that we should be doing, but it's something we should encourage other people to do. It's not like you being great at something is going to limit my effectiveness at being great. I think everyone trying to be great is just going to make everything much, much better. It's like this exponential growth. And when I got into jiu-jitsu, I was already like older, you know, so it was just inspiring, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And I had to have all these recalibration conversations with family and friends because they were like, what are you doing? And so I made some pretty hard pivots, and I just dove all in, and I've been in it ever since, as deep as I could.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you just said goodbye to the corporate world and...
Well, I stayed for a while. I ended up working for an oil major for many years, and I was using all of my vacations. I mean, very quickly, I learned that I didn't have what it took to be an MMA fighter. That was the goal.
Okay.
I wanted to fight in the MMA. And back in those days, it was like pretty early on still.
Yeah.
So it was still a situation where a mid-range athlete, the money was so low that a middle-range athlete, like a construction worker or something like that, could be successful in the sport. Yeah. My body was just breaking down. So I'd be getting ready for a fight, and I'd get a ruptured ACL or something, and I would always have this reason to say no. And so I was still working for an oil major at the time, and my job there was to like develop talent. And so like, it's always come natural to me. And then one of my main training partners just out of nowhere was like, yo, I got to fight. Like, will you corner me? Will you go with me? And I said, yes. And it was a really amazing experience. And then it was at that moment that I was like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to like lead and coach and corner. And I think I'm kind of tooting my own horn. I don't like doing this, but I feel like I have a way of extracting something left out of somebody when they don't think they have anything left. Right. I feel like I have a way of getting that out of them. I think that's a talent that I have. And so I just kind of gravitated to that. And then for many years, I would use all of my vacation time just for traveling to fights. Like
really?
At the time when I still had a career, I was working with like some amazing fighters: Mark Munoz, Chito Vera, Alex Perez, Ashley Evans Smith, Carla Esparza. So at those times, I still had a full-time job.
Nice.
And, you know, hey, we're going to England. Chito, we're going to England to fight Brad Pickett. And I'd have to go to my boss and say, hey, Monday I got to go. Like we took this fight on like 24 hours notice. I mean, from the time he took the fight to where we had to leave.
100%, yeah.
And so eventually I started building my own gyms in Orange County. I opened up 10th Planet Costa Mesa first, and then we opened up 10th Planet Buena Park, which is now Fullerton. And then we opened up 10th Planet Orange and 10th Planet Irvine.
Nice.
And then my wife and I decided to start having kids again. And then at that point in 2015 is when I decided to come out here to Vegas.
Nice.
It was the best decision I ever made.
Yeah?
Yes.
Nice. Isn't that interesting that you were in talent development and really your craft is developing like elite talent, right? That's super interesting.
It's just weird how like naturally you just kind of fall into like where your strengths are, you know, as long as you're putting in work. So like, it's just... I mean, I didn't choose to be in those positions. I've had 2 major corporate jobs, and both of them was kind of leading and talent development.
Nice.
And then it just kind of segued into this. And I mean, I didn't know that this was what my life was going to look like. I had no idea, but I'm very happy that it happened. I feel lucky.
Yeah. So you moved in 2015, and did you start 10th Planet Las Vegas at that point? Or?
Yeah, well, we had a baby at the house. My wife just gave birth, and we had tried for 8 years to have we have a 23-year-old daughter as well. And so I'm talking about the current 10-year-old daughter, Charlie, and we tried for 8 years to have her, and we ended up getting in vitro fertilization.
Yeah.
So she was just this miracle gift to us. And this kind of gets like a little long. I'll try to get it as short as possible, but I was still working for the oil major. I had opened up 10th Planet Costa Mesa, so my day started at 5 a.m. and I would go out to LA from Orange County. I'd work all day. I would get home at like 4, and my wife and my 23-year-old daughter, I think she was very young at the time, but they would jump in a car with me and we would drive down to Costa Mesa, which was like another hour.
Yeah.
And then my wife would shop and do her thing, and then my daughter Abigail would train with me.
Nice.
And then at the point that we had Charlie, my wife obviously would opt to stay home. So I'd work all day at the oil major, and then I would get home and I'm like, hey guys, let's go. And then my wife's like, oh, I'm gonna stay home. I have an infant baby. And then my daughter, my best friend at the time, owned a Jiu Jitsu academy like right around the corner from our house. And she's just like, hey, I'm gonna go and train with Jerry. And I just remember like feeling so disconnected from the family.
Fair.
So one Friday night, I was sitting. I had no plans to move to Vegas. I actually hated Vegas. I thought it was disgusting every time I came here for a fight, because all we saw was the Strip.
Yeah.
And I was watching a show on like, I don't even know, just something. It was like Flip Flop Vegas, something like that.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh man, you can buy a house for $180,000. And I had like a couple of tall cans in me. I was feeling pretty good. And I just decided at that moment, I'm like, we're moving to Vegas. And my wife's a working attorney at the time.
Okay.
And so I remember getting up off the couch, and she was breastfeeding the baby in the bedroom, laying down on the bed. And I was like, honey, you're gonna retire 100%. So I'm gonna retire and we're gonna move to Vegas. And without even blinking, she just looked up and was like, will that make you happy? And I was like, yeah. She's like, do it, let's run it.
Nice.
And then so basically I went into work and said, hey, I'm out of here. And they were like, well, when do you want to be out here? And I'm like, I don't want to be here today. And I said, but I'm prepared to work until the end of the year so we can burn vacation time and you guys can like replace me. And my boss was like, go find a shady tree today and go to sleep under it and basically nuke your laptop. And then tomorrow I'm going to have someone fly in and we'll do your resignation papers. And I was gone.
Amazing.
And then we were in a car coming out here trying to find a house to buy.
Yeah.
And then the rest is history. And then I had a bunch of fighters on the roster that I was coaching at the time and no location. So there was a UFC gym here in town that let me use it. And then there used to be a gym called The Pit, Chuck Liddell, those guys, they had one here in town.
Of course.
And so I was able to use that for a while to coach my fighters. So all my fighters would come out here and I would train them here.
Nice.
And the plan was always to open a gym. I just didn't know where or how or like the demographic study I hadn't done because we moved out here on such a whim. You know?
Yeah.
And I chose the area that we moved because of the wrestling team at the high school. And my kids, one of them is Derek. You just saw him walk out of here. And then my daughter Abby, I knew they were going to be very good high school wrestlers. So Green Valley High School has the best wrestling team.
There you have it.
And the only reason I ended up in this part of town is because we looked at the zip codes and the areas that get to go to Green Valley High School. And that's why we ended up here. So I ended up building the gym here about 6 months after we moved here.
That's so cool.
And then the rest is history. So we're going on 10 years. January 6th will be 10 years.
Amazing. Gonna have to throw a party.
Yeah? Oh, it's going to be crazy. We're going to do a wild one.
All right, I'll see if I can find a way to be back here.
Do it. It'll be nuts.
That's so cool. You must have seen the scene grow quite a bit in Vegas as well in that 10 years, right?
It's insane. Yeah. I mean, when I first got here, you know, there was still a lot of jiu-jitsu, a lot of MMA here, but over the last 10 years, I mean, just if you look at the population growth in Vegas and even like for the people on camera, you can't see this, but to the east of us, there's a bunch of houses. And when we moved into this shopping center, was across the way at a smaller location. And then we moved here during COVID, but those houses didn't exist.
Right.
Like it was all desert out that way.
Yeah.
And now pretty much everywhere there's dirt, there's houses now.
Yeah.
And so I kind of call this, I mean, everyone in Vegas calls Vegas the ninth island because there's a lot of Hawaiians here. But it actually feels like you're living on an island when you live here.
Right.
It's just instead of water, it's dirt. Around us, right? So like if you drive in any direction, eventually you're going to hit desert.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, we live on an island here in Vegas.
It's true, yeah. It's true because I was zooming out actually when I was kind of doing a little bit of research, and I mentioned to you, Mike was telling me like you got to go check out 10th Planet Las Vegas, and you guys were definitely already on my radar, right? Just because of the caliber of fights and the just great content that's out there coming out of this gym. And long story short, I'm looking to see where you guys are located, and then I kind of zoom out, and it really is like Vegas, Henderson, I guess, which is where we're at right now, and maybe a couple other like tiny small towns, and then just desert, right? Like Mojave is just everywhere. It's kinda,
yes, sir.
Yeah.
You know, also too, when we did move to this part of town, many people in Vegas were like, "Don't go out there. There's nothing out there." And I'm like, "That's why I want to go out there," because at the time. I wasn't really trying to get the best athletes. I actually, like, something Eddie Bravo said to me years ago is like, you could have all the D1 wrestlers. I want all the nerds.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was targeting is like, I want nerds. I want people that didn't have athletic success necessarily in high school. I want the guys that we could really impact, have the greatest impact and confidence and lifestyle upgrade through jiu-jitsu that I can get. And mostly those are the nerds. And it turns out that nerds have the right kind of mindset to just get beat up every day in here. And then eventually they become killers in 100%, here. Yeah. And, but little did I know that I would end up with the best level athletes, Andy Varela, that exist in the game, you know, and plus tons of fighters and stuff. But yeah, it's just been an interesting mix. We have like nerdy guys in here that are like stone killers, and then we have like the highest level alpha wrestler athlete. They're in here and they train together, and they both give each other great work. So it works good.
Nice, that's really cool. I didn't realize there was that high of a pedigree of wrestling as well in Nevada, but I guess it is the fight capital of the world.
I would say, in general, the wrestling in the state of Nevada is not good.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? But there are some hammers. Yeah. Every state has hammers, but, you know, when you're talking about the best wrestling, you're talking about California, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Like, those are the states that come to mind, New York. You don't think Nevada, but Green Valley High School, as far as like Nevada goes, is very good. And then they actually have a charter school called Slam. They opened it up. I think it was my daughter's freshman year. She ended up wrestling for them because they had an all-girls wrestling team, and they got ranked as high as 5th in the nation. Nice. Like when my daughter was a senior in high school over there. So it's just, I think it has to do with population. The population's so low, we just don't have the pool of humans the same as like California and New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania do, but we're working on it. There's tons of wrestling academies popping up, like a lot of schools that are popping up where you pay like a monthly, you go in, you do strength and conditioning, you do your schoolwork, and you wrestle. Right. And so it's becoming a full-time sport here, and that's really cool to see.
It ties so well, right, with submission grappling. That it's hard to kind of have. I think you mentioned it during the class, right? Like you need to be good at wrestling, and if you're not, you need to be good at wrestling up and sweeping. Right.
I mean, the ultimate goal is to be on top. Right. And you know, our style. I mean, that's pretty much how I consider myself in here now. Is I'm more of a culture setter. I mean, culture has always been number one, but for me, like, I have so many high-level guys. You saw some of the kids that were shooting videos after practice here. I mean, I have 40 students that are better than me. So it's like, if you have 40 students or 50 or 80 students that are better than you, how do you keep it all together? And my thing is I talk about this in many different areas, is like, I create the vision and then I sell the vision. And then my kids, now that I'm old and broken, they go out and execute it, you know? And so like our identity is going to be heavy hands, really good wrestling, very good passing, incredible top pressure, take the back, and get the kill. And that's what we're trying to do all the time, you know? And so for me, it's my job to be like, this is what I want it to look like.
Yeah.
And then get you guys to buy in.
Yeah.
And then you go execute. And then we create this like system of work. And our body of work turns out to be pretty good.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Yeah. And we're seeing it, I think, more and more, right? Are you still actively training UFC fighters as well?
No, I retired in 2023.
Okay.
So it's really crazy that, like, you know, being a younger dad with my older daughter, you're just kind of like doing the best that you can and becoming like an older father. So I'm 51 and I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Uh-huh.
And my 10-year-old is responsible for the most growth and the most, like, crazy decision-making that I've ever done in my life. Like, yeah, I retired from, I was pretty wealthy from my old-time job, and I retired because of her. And then I retired from coaching MMA because of her. She's an incredible golfer. And in 2023, I decided that, well, I mean, it was also my older daughter. She wrestled all through college, too, and it was senior night. And I realized that, like, I haven't always been there for her wrestling matches because I was always on the road. I always had a guy. So the thing is, life is all in waves, right? Uh-huh. So like a fighter, they fight 3 times in the UFC or 4 per year if they're pretty active, right? So they go 8 weeks fight camp, high stress in that 8 weeks, and then there's this big release as they go out of fight camp, they transition into normal life, they go home, they water the garden with their family and friends, and then they come back, and then they start working, and they're just training, and then they get into another fight, and they do that wave pattern 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay. Yeah.
And then now it's very stressful during that time, and then now you think about a coach, you're going through that 30 times a year. Yeah. So like that high peak stress point, you just kind of you're just bouncing at the top. And so it's so weird because I also knew better. Like I felt like I was very important to my previous career. Oh man, if I try to quit, my boss is like, and then I went in there and said I'm gonna retire, and they were like, done, cool. Yeah. Like no problem. Yeah. And guess what? The company didn't burn down. No. And then so like I'm thinking like my daughter's got a wrestling match. She wrestled in college in Kansas, and ex-UFC fighter has a fight coming up. Oh man, I can't miss that week because he's got a fight coming up. So I opt not to go watch my daughter wrestle. I stay home instead of watching her wrestling meet. And then I go to the fight. He wins or loses, whatever, right? And then so in 2023, when I retired, all those guys went on to have incredible journeys. Yeah. Right? Wins and losses, but it turns out that I wasn't as important as I thought. But the one big disastrous mistake that I found out later was impacting my children. It's like a lifetime thing. Yeah. You know? And so like, even though like my fighters needed me at times, but they were able to get new coaches, but your kids can't replace you. And so I gave up a lot of opportunity to bond with my daughter for my fighters. And then I just decided in 2023, I can't do that with the little ones. So I pretty much, like everybody knows, I mean, Andy's my dude. I love Andy more. There's not a human besides his mom and dad that love him more than me. Yeah. And I tell him all the time, like, you're number one on my list. You're number one. And the only person that outranks you are the 3 little girls. That's it. Like if you need me to go coach you somewhere, I'm gonna go. But if there's like a conflicting thing with one of the little girls, I'm gonna go do that. 100%. And they all understand. Yeah. But I never thought anybody would ever understand that. So also too, what happens when you realize that family is the most important thing, you kind of price yourself out of MMA coaching. Right. So I'm totally not worth it. So like I have a fighter that fought in Australia. I love her to death. She means a lot to me. She's like a daughter to me. And she asked me if I can go. She was fighting in Australia, and I just was like, you can't really afford me. You're not paying for me as a coach. You're not paying for my skills as a coach anymore. You're paying for me to leave my kids. Right. And that is just too expensive. You can't afford that, you know? And you could definitely get somebody who's better or at least as good for like way cheaper, because I'm not calculating the cost of having me in your corner by money anymore. It's by time.
Yeah.
And I just don't have enough time to give out to everybody 100%. Anymore.
Yeah. I love that. That's quite a bit of wisdom that you just shared, I think, and through lived experience on top of it all. And it's that finite resource that we have so little of, right? Like people say, life is short, and it's funny because it very much is, but it's also the longest thing you're ever going to experience, right, from A to Z. But how you, like, who and how you spend that time, right, is so important. And I think, at least, this was definitely not something I understood until much later, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm only 44 right now, but I definitely wasn't thinking like that in my 20s. And then now it's like, given a number of different options, I'm going to spend time with my wife, or I'm going to spend time doing something maybe with the family or healthy, as opposed to, you know, prioritizing a video game. Or,
yeah.
You know
Yeah. I'm a huge Dodger fan. Huge.
Yeah. Oh, really? Still? Yeah.
Oh God.
Good,
I love the Dodgers. And there's been an invention. I can't even say an invention, but there's been a YouTube channel that came into existence recently. So I went many years without watching the Dodgers. I'm also a huge Laker fan. Okay. And I love USC Trojan football.
Okay.
I'm a LA boy,
LA
right?
to the core,
to the core. And my dad was a major sport nut. But I got into this place in my life where I just can't give a Laker game 3 or 4 hours of my time. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, part of my business thinking, one of my strategies was, and I've told Lobes this, I tell everybody who will listen to me this, like, if you're an instructor, you have one job. And if you're from LA, it makes a lot more sense. It might not make sense here, but if you're an instructor and you own an academy, you have one job, and that job is to compete with whatever local sports team is in your area. And I view myself as I'm the thing that stands in between you, a 6-pack of beer, and a Laker game. Yep. And most people are leaving a job that they can't stand. Yep. Driving in a car that they can't afford, going to a house that they also can't afford, to somebody that they're not completely happy with, in a situation that makes them miserable. And it's so easy for that person to get a 12-pack of beer and go just kind of watch the Raider game on TV and just kind of lose their life for 4 hours and then get drunk enough to go to sleep. Yeah. And for me, I always took that as like a personal assault. And it's like, my goal every day is to wake up and make sure that you don't do that. Right. And so to circle all the way back to the invention, it's called House of Highlights. Okay. And I get to watch a full Laker game. I think I see where this is going. In like 10 minutes. And that's how I watch the Dodger games. Nice. Man, I just, it's something, like I remember growing up as a kid, and my dad would like open the garage door in the summer, and he would like get the lawnmower out, and he'd be like, "Boy, come out, we're gonna do some yard work." And then we'd be listening to Vince Scully calling the Dodger games, and I could smell the grass, and I can remember those times with my dad, and I could remember like just doing work. Yeah. And it was hot, and it was sweaty, and those were some of the best days of my whole entire life. And so there's this like little bit of nostalgia. Yeah. So even though my life is super busy and I have a lot of humans that need me, my family, my wife, my students, I can't give the Dodgers 4 hours at time, but I can give them 10 minutes. Hell yeah. And for brief moments in my life, I can insert those things. Nice. And House of Highlights is just amazing. So I recommend anybody who's having a hard time keeping up their love for sport. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I don't even watch UFC anymore. No, eh? No. The only time I'll watch a UFC fight is if... So I didn't even realize I wasn't even... I had a vested interest in watching before. Right. And I didn't even realize that I only watched the weight classes for the fighters that I had representing that class. Wow, that makes sense. So like 125, 135, 145, 170, that's pretty much all I watched, because that's pretty much all I trained. Except for Mark Munoz, I had him at 185. So when he was fighting, I was watching those guys, because you just never know. Yeah. And now that I don't have any fighters, I really have no interest.
That makes sense,
so
yeah.
the only interest I have in the UFC now is a human interest. So one of my friends is fighting, because they're no longer my students, they're my friends.
Yeah.
And so like if Cody Stamen's fighting or Julian Arosa, I'm gonna watch.
Yeah.
Chito Vera, I'm gonna watch just because I have a human interest, you know.
Yeah. That's so interesting. That it kind of aligns well with something Fionn Davies said recently about like the storytelling and the like women's stories weren't really known in jiu-jitsu until more recently, right? And now you're seeing more of it. Now, and the way she explained it made me realize that when I would tune in, because I'm originally from Canada, right? And when I would tune in, it'd be for George St. Pierre, for example, right? And we were invested. Like the whole country was just like on, you know, we had his back. Like, it didn't matter what it was. It was an embedded, it was a trailer, pardon me, or it was the actual fight. Like, we were watching it. But then when that generation of fighters and their stories kind of passed on to the new one, I realized I don't really know these guys. And all of a sudden I wasn't as interested, right? Whereas now, for example, Andy Varela, you know, with the exposure of the UFC BJJ and their whole machine, like promoting him, his story, and his participation in the event, that's like all of a sudden I'm invested in this guy that I personally don't know yet, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, there's also I was actually, it's funny that you brought that up, that whole idea that you brought up, because I was just talking to Brady about it. He's one of our top flight competitors, Brady Branscombe. I actually love him very much. Like, even if he didn't train here with me, like, I would still want to be in his life because he's just such a great kid. But I have this weird perspective because I'm kind of like I kind of like bridge the gap between two generations,
right?
You know, and just my age and kind of my position in coaching. I was kind of in the middle of like where the guy that drinks beer on the weekends can actually make a living fighting in the UFC, to where now the money's big enough, thanks to Conor McGregor, that people are actually making money. And then so what you see is you see a lot of Division I athletes transitioning into MMA instead of like a lower level athletic career. Here's an example. You have a running back. He was good enough to play Division I football. He's good enough to make the NFL Combine. Maybe he even made a practice squad. But really, he's going to go arena football or something like that. Maybe Canadian Football League or something like that, right? And instead of doing that, they opt to fight in the UFC now because you can make a couple million. And if you get popular, you can make a lot more money, right? And so what's happened is the place for me to fight is gone, right? Because now there's the money. So there's this big gap that's bridged. I tell this story a bunch, and I just did it with Brady, and I named names. I won't do that here. But you're relevant until you're not relevant. Right. And so we have a guy who had 2 of the best fights in UFC history. 2. And he doesn't train here, but he lives here, and he pops in from time to time. And Brady does not know him. He comes in and train. And when I say 2 of the best fights of all time, it probably you could probably know who I'm talking about. And he lives in Vegas. But to me, as far as UFC fighters goes, he's as big as it gets. And then he comes in here and trains, and Andy and these young kids, they don't even know who it is. And so to put it in context for your Canadian listeners, if you think about this, since COVID, the UFC fan base has grown probably, I'm just taking bro science and throwing it out, so please don't fact check me. But I would say there's 90% more UFC fighters than there were pre-COVID. Now, right? Not only because the population's greater, but there was a time when sports betting was gone and the UFC was first back to market. So all the sports bettors started paying attention to the UFC, and it's become just bigger than anything, right? And there are probably about 75 or 80% of all UFC fans that exist globally that have never seen George St. Pierre fight. You think about all the young people that are UFC fans now, and that's absurd to think of. And so like the real balance becomes in jiu-jitsu with the young athletes is you have to parlay your athletic success into a future where you can extract income out of it, right? And if you think that you're going to be relevant forever, you are very quickly going to be mistaken. And before you know it, people are going to walk in and they're not going to know who the hell you are, because the world is growing so rapidly that it's not what have you done in the past. It's like, what are you doing now?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it just moves fast, man. I mean, I bring in some legendary grapplers, friends of mine, and I can't even sell seminars here.
Really?
No, but if I bring in Gary Tonin,
right,
or somebody like that, everybody will come, because they're actually like making it happen now. But as soon as someone retires, within a year, they pretty much become irrelevant here in Vegas.
Wild. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Huh. Interesting. There's something to be said about. I saw a documentary a while ago, and it was about NFL quarterbacks and how, for a long time, the system that they were in, even despite being at the elite, top tier, the system didn't really prepare them for life after the game, right? And like, they're making millions, especially if they're at that level. But in many cases, there's some really sad stories on how some careers ended, right, or lives ended, in fact. I think it's better now. I think there's more awareness around that. And it's interesting that, as the sport of MMA, the sport of jiu-jitsu or submission grappling grows, we're seeing the same thing, right? Like, I think a common path is maybe open a school, but then if you don't have the business acumen, or if you have never taught a class before, you may or may not be well suited for it. Mm-hmm. And if there's no other game plan, right? Like, what do you do?
My suggestion with everybody, so I tell them this all the time. So there's a reason that I don't have the athletic body that I had at 20. I'm way too smart. I have way too much experience now.
I must be very smart in that game.
Dude, youth, or you could just say it like athleticism and experience, they're on a scale like this, right? So you have like all the athleticism in the world, and then your experience is down here. Mm-hmm. And as you start aging, you gain experience, but then the scale's going the other way as far as like health and athleticism goes, right? And there's this band. Maybe it's a 5-year window if you're lucky. Maybe it's a 3-year window if you're not lucky. But it's like, so as you're building your experience, you're coming up in the game. Brady comes to mind. He's a guy that I talk to about this all the time. It's like, no, don't worry about losing right now. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, you're going to win more than you lose, because you can see what we do here, so you trust the process. You come in, you do what we say, you're going to win a lot. But you're also a purple belt competing against black belts every weekend, so you're going to take some L's, but there's no cutting the line in jiu-jitsu, because you're building your experience, right? Yeah. And then, so there's going to be a time when your experience and your athleticism start to line up and you get into your prime. Right. And when that happens, you have to be ready. That's when you're going to be your most popular. That's when you're going to have the highest earning potential. And you need to be able to parlay that at that time to the biggest amount of financial income that you can get. And so what I try to say is it's content. I mean, you can make a school, that's cool, but a school takes a lot of work. Yeah. Like, you're actually working when you're at a school. And so, like, if you really want to make money, you create little robots that don't need to be fed, they don't need to get paid, they don't need sleep, and they exist on the internet, and they exist in all the time, and someone can just purchase them. Yeah. And then those and the little robot's just the technique, it's the content. And it's like, so stop thinking about actually like creating a school that's gonna make you work. Create content that's gonna continue to make you money over time. And if you start doing it when you're right at the beginning of your athletic success, when you're getting to the end, you're gonna have this big giant platform. I know many people that are making $500,000, $200,000 a year on content, because people are trying to consume it. Yeah. And here's another free game. If you're trying to sell jiu-jitsu content to me, you're barking up the wrong tree. Right. You want to sell your jiu-jitsu content to the new people. Right. The new people are the ones that are spending the most money on jiu-jitsu. So if you're doing these crazy fancy techniques that they can't understand, you're selling it to other people's students that already understand it. Right. But if you're showing super basic, fundamentally sound jiu-jitsu, that shit's going to just sell crazy. Interesting. Yeah, that's what I would say. But that's what I try to tell all these kids is, create a school. Let's do it. Like, I'll help you. We'll figure it out. But before you do that, when you're in the middle of your athletic career, when you cannot commit the time to do that, you should be putting out content. And you should be having, at the very minimum, a Patreon account. Yeah. Which we're seeing more and more of. And it's at first I wasn't sure how I felt about it, because it's hard to keep track of it all, right? But
at the same time, it's great to see these alternative forms of passive almost income, right?
Exactly.
Like, it's work, but like it's work that, as you mentioned, can pay dividends over the long term, right?
I talk about force multipliers. So like with Andy, I'll just use him as an example. I'm like, I'm going to pay you to teach here. You're going to get paid to compete. So you have to go to the gym. You have to start your car. You have to drive into the gym because you get paid to teach. So by virtue of that, like, you're coming in, right? So that's one force that's making you go in. And then I'm telling you, film your classes because you're already here. So film your classes and post them. Be like, hey, you live in Oklahoma and you can't train with me. Well, now you can see what we're doing in here. And do them unedited. So just whenever you're talking, turn the music off and then film the technique portion and then make it like a B-roll segment during all the drilling. And I'm like, dude, now that's a force multiplier of 2. So you're getting paid to get here. You're creating a platform that you're selling while you're here. So it doesn't necessarily have to be work to create content. Like, I wouldn't say come in when nobody's in the gym and film the content, because then it is work. You're actually making an effort to go in to film the content. But if you can create an environment where you're teaching to the room and you're filming the content, now we're really cooking. Now your time is being doubled. And you know, when we talk about limited resource of time, then that's going to become very important. And so I try to encourage my guys, like, don't come in here on a Saturday morning and just do a technique session. Like, get a group of people together, film that session, and then now it's making sense.
That's cool. Yeah. I think I've only ever really thought of it as exactly as you described, right? Like, you find a time where the gym is empty. It's you and 2 maybe other people, and then you have a set list of techniques, and it really doesn't even feel like it's not training at that point. It's really just kind of like. And I think that comes through as well, right, in the video to whoever might be watching it. It probably doesn't have the same energy as it would during a class, right, setting where people are. Yeah,
the class setting's so much better. And also, too, I don't like overly produced stuff. I like uncut, raw stuff. And if you're like me or the people that are like in our age group, I would say like 43 to like 65, I have so many subscriptions and I don't even watch them. I'm just like, oh man, Andy's dope. I'm gonna go ahead and subscribe for $20 a month and donate my money to him. You know, and I have plenty. And my wife tells me about them. You know, she's like, what are you doing? Like, cut some of these subscriptions. And I'm like, but you know, I need MG in action. And she's like, when's the last time you looked at it? And I'm like, it's been years, but I like it. You know,
Marcelo's the GOAT.
You know, but that's what I do. I mean, I just buy these subscriptions and I just keep them because, you know, I have plenty of money and I like to support. You know?
That's awesome. It's really something that I think probably when you were starting with jiu-jitsu, there wasn't very much of, right? Like,
there was none. We had no internet. So when I started, I remember buying books and magazines and getting photocopies of books that were in 3-ring binders, and it was like step 1, step 2, step 3, all made sense. And then it would go from 3 to 4, and you're like, wait a minute, what happened between 3 and 4? And so there's a benefit to that, though, because I believe that the game evolved because we had to come up with our own. It was kind of like connecting the dots, you know. And I feel that the game expanded during those times more than any other time.
Interesting, Interesting that you'd also find yourself training with Eddie Bravo, who's somebody who expanded the system, in a completely unique direction, given, I think, like, you know, from the outside looking in, you know, like, I've never trained full-time 10th Planet. From the outside looking in, it's a whole ecosystem of its own within grappling, right? And I think there's more cross-pollination now probably happening than ever before, but to have something so unique, like, I don't know if there's a secret sauce, whatever it is, but you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, this is something I've thought about. I came up in a very traditional school. I trained in a no cross-train, dark room, no windows. My instructor was very fundamentally sound, very good. Like, I don't like to name him because we kind of had a little falling out.
That's fine.
But even though I love him, but it was very strict, zero cross training. Everybody's the enemy. And when I actually left the school, I was a brown belt. And then I started training abroad. I mean, I always had friends. You know, I was always like an adult in the room.
Yeah.
So I wasn't very easily controlled. You know, it was like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. Like, I can't be really told. This is crazy. I have a family already. Like, what are you talking about? And so, but it wasn't until I fully disconnected from my original instructor that I started getting around and training. And it wasn't until I started training with Eddie that it was like somebody opened the blinds and let the light in, and then someone opened the door and let the air in. And I was like, oh man, it's not an oppressive sport. This is not an oppressive martial art. This is actually a martial art. And it wasn't that he was oppressive, he was just old school. It was just the way it was. And you keep everything close to the vest, you know?
Yeah.
But when I went to Eddie, I'll never forget, one of the first times I trained with him, I asked him, I said, hey, Eddie, what do you think about this? And he was like, does it work? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, hell yeah, man. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then, so I started training with Eddie, and then very quickly I started training with Jean-Jacques Machado too.
Nice.
And then training with Jean-Jacques also gave me some insight to Eddie, because it all makes sense when you train with both of them.
Right.
You know, Jean-Jacques also very innovative, and you know, he allowed Eddie the freedom to express himself in a time when that was like, it was like, no, you got to do it the way the traditional guys did it.
Yeah.
And I had that same question with Jean-Jacques one time. I asked him, I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And he's like, hey, does it work? And I was like, yeah. And he's all, good, it looks good, like, do it. And I just remember thinking to myself, wow, this is just such a pleasant way to like train, innovate, develop. And you know what's weird about that is at the end of, later into my career, I ended up having two of the most like liberal jiu-jitsu guys in the world.
Yeah.
And I've never invented a technique. Everybody else around me has. They all name techniques after themselves. And all I ever did was steal information from everybody else. Like, I've never, I wish I could. I mean, I feel like I do things better than some, but it's like, how come I can't just dream of something and then do it and then name it? I kind of feel like most of the techniques are already out there, and it's like music. It's just different arrangements and timing, you know? And I've never really created anything. And it's just funny because I'm with two guys that are very like, create. It's just funny.
No, that's really cool. I actually really like that analogy of music and different arrangements, right? Because I think you're spot on. It's really like, it's in the hands of the composer, and then what comes out, you know, whether it's the live match or the techniques. And interestingly, so I recorded an episode yesterday with Professor Drysdale out in Vegas, and he was explaining a time where their focus was very much martial, right? Like, if it didn't work in a fight, then don't do it. So, you know, things like maybe shin to shin weren't as popular as they could have been because you would just get slapped in the ear.
That's right.
And but it's still, he was still describing a setting that was similar to, I think, what you just described, which is like, well, does it work? If so, you know, thumbs up. If not, here's why. You know, like, so it's so interesting.
That's how I came up same way. It was jiu-jitsu was MMA.
Yeah.
There was no delineation. It was like, no, you're training. It's not for a jiu-jitsu tournament. It's for an MMA fight.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're going to do. And back in those days, it was TJ. It was Tijuana. You go down there, and it's like you're just fighting. It was smokers. It was warehouses in LA. You know, it was just a different world back then. And it was everyone in there. Like, you saw a bunch of dads in here today. Yeah. They would all have a fight. They would all. That's how it was back then. It was like, even if you didn't want to be a fighter, like, that wasn't the goal. It was we were going to find another gym that had some guys, and then we were going to go fight them. And
that's wild.
You were going to, you know, but all super controlled, MMA style, you know, nothing crazy. But so since jiu-jitsu's kind of broken away from, like, this is supposed to be for street fighting and it's become sport. It's very important for me as an instructor. So if we view jiu-jitsu like music, arrangements, and timing, I kind of view myself as a composer.
Right.
And I always keep self-defense and MMA in the perspective of our jiu-jitsu. That's why passing and staying on top and controlling, because I know that not only are we going to win a lot of sport jiu-jitsu matches with that kind of
strategy.
Yeah. So with that kind of strategy, we're going to win it a lot, but it's also going to trickle down to my dads that are not competing. And someone comes out to them and tries to fight them in the parking lot.
Right.
They're not going to try to pull guard or go shin to shin in the parking lot, right? They're going to blast double them, hit them with the planet Earth and try to knock them out. And then not only that, but our eyes are oriented to like see depth perception when our head's up and our chin's up and we're looking out like this.
Yeah.
If we invert, all of a sudden our perspective on everything gets all skewed and crazy. So in a self-defense situation, I need my guys' eyes up so they can scan and look. And for self-defense reasons and MMA reasons and also competition reasons, that's why we've adopted the style that we have here.
Nice. That's so cool. Yeah. Because I think without knowing anything about the culture and the style that you have here, one could assume that because it's 10th Planet, there's going to be a lot of guard. And
no.
Yeah, it's interesting.
No, that was one of the things is you got to remember, I came into 10th Planet late.
Yeah.
And we used to have so I left my original instructor and then we opened up our own school called Subtech MMA. And the focus was fighting. That's what it was. It was UFC fighters. We're gonna do striking and everything, right? Nice. And then at the time I had to leave the location and open my own. There was a lot of dialogue. Eddie Bravo and I have friends, it's like, open a 10th Planet. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, we're, I don't really, that's not really, I played meat hook a lot. That's like one specific path to like pyramid triangles. That's like one of Eddie's specific paths. I play a lot of truck and twister just because that's like wrestling type stuff. Like it makes sense to me. And then, but there's a lot. But then my son, Derek, the guy that just left, he's got one of the most incredible rubber guard games anywhere. But in general, I'm like, Eddie, we're on a different mission. Like I'm trying to make MMA fighters and I'm not trying to have anybody pull guard in an MMA fight. Yeah. And he's like, this is part of the nature of Eddie is he's like, yeah, no problem. Like do it. Nice. So we have, even though we are 10th Planet, we love 10th Planet. Eddie's my instructor. All of our guys are ranked under 10th Planet. We have a very different style. But the cool thing about Eddie being as mature as he is he allows us to create our own style. He does not mandate what we teach. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So he knew the mission when we did it. Yeah.
That's cool. That means that I could go, because I visited Professor Compella out in Pasadena, right? And then there was his style and his approach, and then I come here and then I love that. Like, every school, every region has its own style. Yeah.
The closer you get to LA, the more 10th Planet style the 10th Planet gyms get.
Right, interesting, yeah.
And I would say still Costa Mesa, Irvine, Orange, and Fullerton still have like kind of a grimy, gritty style because I was there. I mean, I opened them, I owned them. At one point, the funny thing is I don't smoke. I've never once been high while teaching. Never once in my entire career. Never once. And at one point in time, I had 8 10th Planets. So I had the most out of anybody. Yeah. And I'm like, we actually have like a very different, it's very strange how that worked out.
So much for any stereotypes then in that case, right?
Yeah, well, we have to, we compete against that stereotype all the time.
I imagine,
Especially when people move here that don't know me. Like on the West Coast, a lot of the fighters knew who I was, but in this town, there's a bunch of people from Ohio and Michigan that move here. Right. And they don't know me necessarily. So they came here and they were very reluctant to come and train here. And everybody's like, no, go see him. Yeah. And I've had more than a handful of fighters that I've coached over time that are like, dude, I thought you were going to do like rubber guard and stuff. And I just can't believe that it looks like traditional jiu-jitsu more. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was really cool. I also noticed during the class as we were rolling, that I think I had the privilege of rolling with most of the people that were here, and it was all very controlled, and like there was a clear dialogue happening where, like, for instance, the game went to the legs, and then it was like 2 people studying, okay, like what is the vibe here, and moving accordingly. There wasn't like, I didn't have one situation where somebody was going ham. I certainly didn't, but I'm also old. You know what I mean? Like it was all like, I felt like I was being studied as we were rolling, and I was doing the same. It was just so much fun. Like,
to me, that's a byproduct of the athletic level in the gym. So I always, like, culturally, we have, like, Aljamain Sterling trains here when he's here. Marab actually has a membership here.
Nice.
And I mean, just I can name many, many UFC fighters that train here. Those guys need their bodies to be healthy in order to compete and win.
Yeah.
And so if I have some blue belt who's been studying leg lock DVDs and he's going to break Merab's leg to get a tap, that's not good for business, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's always been in our dialogue, it's always been in our approach, is that, no, we're going to compete very, very hard. So something you'll get in here a lot is like someone will jump on like a leg, right? And they'll get you in a heel hooking position.
Yeah.
And they should be talking to you. Like, you good? You good here? Yeah, I'm good.
I saw that happen,
Yeah, and then we're going to go ahead and try to finish it, and it's going to be very controlled, and there's not going to be any like snatches and like hard breaks. I mean, I wish I could say that you would never get injured in here. I just can't do that.
Of course.
It's an athletic sport, you know.
Of course, yeah.
But you should see that because people understand. I mean, Andy's like one of the highest level competitors in the world as far as like jiu-jitsu goes. And he's going to go with everybody when he's here. He's going to go with whoever's next to go with him. And if you hurt him because you were overzealous and you were acting like a jerk, I'm gonna be really pissed off.
Yeah.
And then there's also a cool thing too, is I get tapped all the time. So no one feels like they can't tap here.
Right.
I get tapped 3 times a day.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, hey, I'm the top guy here. I'm getting tapped. It's like, okay to tap, don't worry.
Yeah.
So dudes aren't like really fighting shit till the break here.
Right.
Either. So it's a cool environment.
I love that. Yeah. That's really cool. That actually segues really nicely to something I want to ask. I also want to be respectful of your time.
Oh, we're good. We can keep going. Okay.
Yeah. About like how you structure a class typically, right? And I think you spoke a little bit about that just now. In terms of the vibe and the culture, but how do you approach, like, let's say the 11 a.m. class, or is there like a particular formula that
there is, right? So I mean, typically the classes I teach, I like them to be 90 minutes because I think you need to balance technique and sparring. Nice. And if you do jiu-jitsu the right way, this is why it's so effective, is because it can be close to 100% go every single day.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm not really teaching to fighters as much as I used to, I'm teaching more to law enforcement, normal people. I'm trying to get them in the fight or flight as often as possible.
Nice.
So when they need to use it for self-defense, they're not just panicked and freaking out, right? So that's why we go 90 minutes, so I can make sure that everyone's tired and working through some stress.
Nice.
But the typical class format, I have this belief that if I give you a technique, it's a present from me to you, and it's something that you should own for eternity.
Nice.
So you go to some schools, and it's like, hey, I'm going to teach triangle today. Tomorrow I'm going to teach an arm bar. And some people get it, and some people don't. So Andy and I both teach in a flow that sometimes takes as much as 2 weeks.
Right.
So, like, just let's say like camping, like inside camping positions, and then it's like, okay, well, we start out with like step 1, and then Tuesday we warm up with step 1 and then bring in step 2, and then Wednesday we start with step 1 and 2 as a warm up, and then we bring in step 3, and then I start to introduce like bottom guy stuff, top guy stuff, and then you get like 4 or 5 sessions in, and then all of a sudden it looks like a drilling session, and then I start picking up the timing and the speed, and I also like to call out shit like while we're training, because I believe that part of being coached is to do, hear, and react, you know? And so, like, I don't know if you remember today, I was like, okay, so we're going to do this, and then I'm going to call out a certain thing I want you to do. Okay, go to the back here, take a Darce here, let's do a gator roll here. And you shouldn't have to stop and look at me.
Right.
And so we like to have, like, dynamic training, too. But I don't do the eco stuff. I still believe drilling's the way to go, supplemented with situational goals and then with live sparring around. So we try to get that. That's typically how I format stuff.
Very cool. Yeah. I did see that. And in fact, that was my first experience with that sort of like dynamic, as you say, kind of instruction, right? Where like halfway through, you're like, throw a Darce in there. And it took me a second to just kind of, you know, like get it. But it made sense in the moment. And you're right. I very much didn't have to turn around to look to see you demonstrate it. Like, very cool. Yeah.
It's also like a live assessment too. Like I'm looking and I'm like, oh shit, Steve can't hit a Darce. Like he just doesn't know what it is.
Right.
And then so I make a mental note. Like we got to go over that. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. You know, as a firmly approaching mid-40s. I consider myself like early 40s. I don't know if 44 still counts as early.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Thank you.
Beginning of the 40s.
It's going to be until I'm 49. But what's if you had to give your like, you know, students that are about that age or getting to late 30s and stuff that still want to be active, kind of a recipe for an approach to jiu-jitsu and to staying healthy, like what would you recommend?
That's a really good question. And I tell everybody this when they sign up. I always say, I wish I could tell you would never get injured, you would never get a skin infection. I wish I could, but I can't. It's a martial art. You're going to get hurt. Yeah. You're going to get a skin infection. With that being said, I think that knowing who you are, I was talking to Dima this week. Oh my God, dude, that guy's amazing. It's incredible. But like, one of the first questions he asked one of my students that was asking him a question, and I really believe this is very important. He's like, who are you? Like, what are you? What are you trying to do? And I thought that was like really profound. So like, as you start to age, you kind of need to just know why you're doing it and who are you and what are you doing? So for me, 10 years ago, I started, since then, I've started every single round on the bottom. Right. I'm not going to wrestle. Mostly it's because if I get on top, it's over. Like, you're just not going to get up, right? Yeah. So I handicap myself, and I just start on the bottom, and then I usually try to get into half guard. And then once I do get to a dominant position, I'm not trying to tap people right away because then I got to fight through leg locks again, fight through to get a top position. And so if you start thinking of jiu-jitsu in like a longevity sense, I'm not trying to get into shootouts with people anymore. Right. I still want to have like highly competitive rounds. Yeah. And I have to tell my students like, no, try to kill me. Like, I need to know where I stand. This is a whole part of it. Right. So like, really try to get me. And I've made it okay for them to tap me, and I made it okay for myself to tap as well. So I have a saying, if I tap you, it's because I'm good. If you tap me, it's because I'm good. And so, like, there really is no losing here, right? Yeah. So any time you spend on the mat is really good time. Well spent, right? So if you're getting into shootouts, don't do that. So I would say focus on positional dominance and try to find a game that you can utilize in your 60s. Nice. And when you're in your 40s, you need to develop that. Like, as your athleticism starts to wane, you need to think, because, I mean, the name of the game is to stay in the game. That's the actual name of the game, right? Yeah. I tell my students all the time, I want to come in here with a cup of coffee one day, and I want to have a heart attack in here and just die. Like, that's how I want to go. Like, whatever age that is, 90, whatever. But I'm going to be coming in here one day saying hi to everybody, and I just want to go. That's a good way to go. Yeah. And, so if your goal is to just be on the mats for a long time, you also don't be afraid to tell somebody to like settle down. Yeah. Like, hey man, I'm getting older. You know, I'm a professional person. Like, I'm not here to do that. So don't be afraid to use your words. One other thing is like, part of the reason I don't submit everybody a lot is because, let's just say I started like darcing you left and right, and I started arm barring you, and then I've tapped you maybe 4 times in the first 3 minutes, and I'm just kind of boat racing you. And then I kind of get distracted and you jump on a heel hook. You're going to want to get some of those back. Right. You know, and so some of the hardest times I've ever been tapped have come off of me completely dominating somebody. Interesting. And then they're trying to get all their pride back. Yeah. Like so I find polite kills as you get older. So like easy sweeps. Yeah. Really polite pressure. That's funny. Yeah. And then I try, this is the other thing I tell the older guys is I try to tap you at 4 minutes and 59 seconds. and then that way there is no get back. Yeah. And then you come up to me later and you're like, hey, let's get another round, coach. And then I'm like, no, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, and then you have to think about it. You have time to simmer. Yeah. And so I try to stay safe. That's awesome. Through control. Yeah. Right? Yeah, but I still train competitively, like with my guys, like super hard. Yeah. And I create an environment in here where it's okay for them to break me off, you know, and then I also get rid of my ego. So like if I get in a position like Nick Ortiz, like I'm sure you guys know who he is. He's freaking amazing too. But he hit me with one of the quickest arm bars that I've ever experienced. And it was awesome. And it was like, if I wouldn't have tapped, I would have got my arm broken, you know?
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, and I'm like, no way, man. Like, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if I had like a little bit of pride and I really tried to fight through it, like at my age and his athleticism and his strength versus me, I would have got broke off there. Yeah. But instead I was just like, yeah, hell yeah. And it does. And being an older guy and kind of approaching it that way, it actually allows my team to really improve past anything that I've ever been able to do on my own.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of like the whole thing with Andy is I tell everybody, like, Andy is like the expression of everything that I've always wanted to do, but I've been athletically limited. Yeah. And then he could do everything that I wanted to do. So he's like, it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like that. I like that you're also, there's a certain amount of selflessness there, right? Like, it's like they're all your children to a certain extent.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, I view them that way. I don't coach people I don't love. I don't have time to do it. Like, if I don't absolutely love you, like if you see me in someone's corner, I love them. Yeah. I'm just not gonna go. Like, someone that I don't love is not gonna be able to come to me and be like, hey, come out to San Diego, we're gonna do a tournament. I'm gonna be like, nah, I can't do it. Yeah. You know? That comes back to how we're spending our time at this point, right? Exactly. Amazing. That's so cool. I think that's a lot of perspective and wisdom that you just shared, and that I'm gonna meditate on for a minute, you know what I mean? So thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it, honestly. Thank you for coming in. And thank you for opening the doors to such a great place. I'm so glad that, you know how it is whenever you're trying something new or you're going somewhere you haven't been before, you get that little angst before, right? Oh, yeah. And then plus there's a crash. I texted you on Instagram, there's a crash on I-11. So I was going to be late, and I was just like, oh, is this a sign for me to hit that turnpike and go back? Which obviously it's not, and I'm so glad, right? I'm so glad that I came, so thank you again. Of course, man, my pleasure. Yeah, you guys, I can't recommend it enough. If you're in Las Vegas, come check it out. I'll post the details of the address. I think the schedule's on the website and everything, right? Yeah, we would love to have you guys, man. Anytime someone comes to Vegas, we have showers here. Bring a towel, bring some soap, get some hard training in. You'll be pleasantly surprised at how cool everybody is here. 100%. Coach Casey, thank you so much. Of course, my pleasure. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.